Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. With me this week is Angie Halford Ré. We're going to talk about how being a single mom and an entrepreneur has gone for her. Because I'll tell you what, I got a soft spot for single moms. I was raised by one. My wife was raised by one. It ain't no joke. It's hard enough being a business owner. But then you throw a handicap like that on there where you got to be the sole provider for some kids and you're trying to run a business and grow it. That takes some perseverance, guaranteed. And I want to know that story. So we're going to dig into that in just a minute. I want you to know that Floor Academy is here for you every week to help you take your business to the next level. If you own a job right now, I want to help you get to owning a business. If you're owning a business, I want to help to get you to owning an asset. And the lessons we learn through this show and the different guests that we interview and people that we talk to throughout the industry and even outside of the industry, you start applying all these little things and you're going to take your business where you want it to go as long as you stay committed to it. Before we get started, I've got a little message from Ladecrete, and then we're going to jump into it and we'll let Angie introduce herself. For over 65 years, Ladecrete has been a leading manufacturer of products and systems covering tile and stone installation, masonry, veneer installation, resonance and decorative floor finishes, concrete construction chemicals, and concrete restoration. They offer an array of low VOC and sustainable products. Their products contribute to LEED certification, exceed commercial and residential VOC building requirements, and are backed by the most comprehensive warranties in the industry. For more information on Ladecrete and the products they offer, visit ladecrete.com. And don't forget, you can even check out Ladecrete University, and there is a ton of information in there to help you learn about proper techniques within the industry. But now, the meat of this, the important stuff, the good stuff. Angie, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? And then let's dig into how it even all started happening.
My name is Angie.
No. Come back. We're going to make this work.
Ray. Previously, most people knew me as Angie. Oh, no.
We're breaking up a little bit. I lost you. You introduced yourself and then it stopped. Let's try again. Who are you?
Okay, my name's Angie Ray. I own Unique Mosaics out of South Salt Lake, Utah. And I'm originally from North Carolina. And that's pretty much it right now. I don't know what else to say.
What were you doing tile in Carolina?
I'm not used to doing interviews. I did flooring installation and tile. Tile I kind of taught on to myself from books and social media. I didn't really have a live person to teach me how to tile. It was just meeting people in the industry, asking a lot of questions.
Okay. What was that? So you had a background in flooring, but you just weren't doing tile. You taught yourself. So how long have you been involved within this flooring, tile, stone industry?
Well, the flooring I was involved in, that was all types of flooring. That was carpet, vinyl, planks, hardwood. And I also did refinishing. So basically any flooring that I did was based around this company I worked for that did all of the flooring work for base housing on Camp Lejeune in Jacksonville, North Carolina. So I learned installation there, and that was just a wide spread of different types of flooring that I learned there, except tile. We didn't do any tile there. That's kind of what I picked up along the way.
Okay. What was how long have you been doing flooring though? Like, when did you start for that company and learning all that other stuff?
Well, I started, I believe it was 2012.
Okay.
I was playing roller derby and I needed another job. I already had one job, but I needed another one. And my friend in roller derby said that her husband did flooring. And she was like, but, I just want to warn you, he's crazy, And she said, she was like, so, and I was like, oh, I got this. It's fine. I just need another job. So turns out he taught me a lot about installation with carpet and vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did learn that from him, and I realized I really enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the hard labor. I enjoyed the satisfaction of getting the job done, and I really liked the work, and I liked the amount of crazy that was in it.
Okay.
So I knew that I was going to evolve into mosaics in this weird way. I kind of I knew that was my goal since 2006, whenever I discovered what mosaics were all about. And I had big dreams. I have been told before it was a pipe dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to believe that because I was like, I can do this. This is what I want to do. And it was always there. And, even though I had a variety of different jobs, I was a bartender, I was an Uber driver, I did whatever I had to do to fill the gaps. What I didn't want was a day off. Every now and then I would take a day off, but I didn't want, because I needed to fill the time with money, essentially, to be able to take care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So mosaics kind of weaved its way in, and my education was in advertising and graphic design. So I can see how now, looking back, how it just kind of all meshed together in a business that I created from nothing. Essentially, I started with a pair of $10 nippers, and I used those wheeled tile nippers for probably 6 years before I actually bought a good pair. So
well,
that was the only tool I had. And I was doing the whole buy a tool and then take it back and return it. And the next job that I got that I needed once I broke out on my own, if I didn't need that tool again, I would just go and return it and go buy another
one. Man, that's rough.
But whatever I needed. So I was trying to be resourceful about it until I could actually start keeping my tools and hanging on to them, and
well, there's so
tough.
much. So you started doing flooring in 2012, but you got interested in mosaics in 2004 or 2006. You said 2006.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what? I got to put this timeline together so we can work our way through it. We should have had a deeper conversation before we jumped into this. This is my interview process, folks. You gotta deal with me here. This is the fun part. So, okay. When did becoming a single mom happen? When did finding mosaics happen? And how did that, how did you know that was the thing? And then we got into flooring. So let's put this timeline together and put it in order for me and kind of give me this story of how these things played out a little bit and led into each other.
Right. Well, I was married to a truck driver, so I kind of felt like a single mom all during the marriage. We were married about 16 years. So I felt like I had a little bit of practice being independent and taking care of the kids, because he just really wasn't around that much. So when I became a single parent, it was by my choice. And that was in 2000. When it was official, I think was 2008 or 9, or like right in the right. I think it was 2009.
Okay.
I don't know. It was in the 2008 and 9 era.
Okay.
Okay. So hold on a second.
So the mosaics came before that. So where did you find mosaics, and what
Mosaics?
inspired you to like that? Like, what opened your eyes and you were like, this is the thing?
Well, I I had this friend. I was living in Vermont, and I want to correct myself because it was 2004, because that's when I was pregnant with my last girl that I had. So when I was pregnant with her, that was 2004. So that's when I first discovered mosaics. I had a friend who had a friend that did it. And she was like, you know what you should do? I bet you would be good at this. And she told me about mosaics. She was like, you can make them and sell them to restaurants or whatever. And, I always was as a child, I like to make things and try to sell them to people and stuff like that. So I could go into that, but I'm not going to right now. But I was thinking, that sounds cool. I want to look it up. And I went to my computer and did a search for however you searched back then. I did a search for mosaics, and I saw this crab, and I was just blown away. I remember staring at it for so long thinking, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. Wow, they spent all that time. And it was like I looked at every single little piece of it. And at this time with the kids, I was homeschooling them. And I was also doing puzzles with them. Like we would go to the stores and find like the most giant puzzle that we could find. Just a ridiculous number with the largest amount of pieces. And so I already had it, I think, in my system to do mosaics, because to me, stuff like that's very tedious and small but big at the same time.
Yeah.
I think it was therapeutic, to do things like that. And this was perfect. And I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta learn how to do this. So because I was homeschooling the kids, I decided to make it an art project, and we were going to make a mosaic together. And that was my first mosaic, as well as failure. And I wish I still had it now, because I did most everything wrong as far as what you're not supposed to do. And, the grout was dried. I didn't wipe the grout off, and it was like basically part of it. It was all sandy and gritty. But we did a scene of the trail system that was behind our house. It was like some hills and mountains, and it was really cool. And that was like the first one. And after that, I realized, well, I need to improve this, because this looks nothing like what I saw, online and other people's work. I was like, this looks terrible compared to all that. So I just started practicing, and I joined a Yahoo group that was for mosaics specifically. And then I also learned about the other groups. John Bridge. I think anywhere I could find information where I could ask a question and somebody would answer me. Yeah, that's where I would go. And yeah, I kind of just started practicing, and then the idea of it just kind of formed in my head. Like, this would be really cool if one day I could just do these giant tile mosaics and sell them to contractors, and I was
Okay.
thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I had it in my head that this is what I wanted to do. So the journey to get there was really hard. And it wasn't very clear. It was like I was doing this thing over here and doing this thing over here. And then tile would come back into my life in some way. And I'm like, I'm going to get there. But the year that I became single parent was like 2008 or not. It might have been, it was during tax season. So it might have been like February, March
Okay.
during that time. And and that was the toughest 2 years, was going in and out of court, but also having the dream of doing this big thing, but reality, slaps you in the face. And it's like, no, you need to get out there and wait tables or something, you know, because you need to have money to take care of all the kids, have 5 children. So
Yeah, that's not going to be easy to provide for 5 kids on your own for sure. And then you're trying to what it sound well you had mentioned earlier,
yeah,
like people were telling you like this isn't possible. You can't do
right.
that. And you're sitting there looking at it as, no, I have to do this. Like I this is made for me, and
Yeah.
you're finding the
Why
info.
can't, yeah, why can't I? Right. Yeah. And I'm patient. And I knew that it would take a lot of work. And I knew it wasn't going to be an overnight thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember I did have some good mentors as far as in my education. I took a lot of art classes during school and in college. So many art classes. And I don't know if I even told you this, but I was a single mom twice because my husband at that time, when I was married, we were married for about 4 years or so. And then we had 2 children at that time. And then we separated. Never could afford to get a divorce. So we just separated for about 4 years. And then we ended up reconciling, getting back together, having 2 more children together. So I've been in that situation. That's when I went to college, was when I was single the first time. And that's honestly probably the hardest thing I've ever done, because I was in my 20s and had to drive an hour to take classes and then drop the kids off at daycare, take classes, come back, pick them up from daycare, take them to a babysitter so that I can go work at night at a restaurant, came back, did homework at like midnight, and then do it all again and it took me 7 years to get a 2-year degree.
You did it though. Good for you.
I was
Good for
determined.
you.
Yeah, it took me that long, because the situation when I was in graphic design, advertising, it used to be called commercial art. So the hand drawn illustrations and all of that transitioned over into Photoshop, Work Express. It transitions to digital. I wasn't allowed to take any classes during the summer, so I couldn't put the kids in daycare during the summer because I couldn't afford to.
Yeah.
So every summer, the curriculum would change. during the fall, the transition between summer and the fall courses. So when the curriculum changed, I had all these other prerequisites that I needed to take. I basically have a doctorate in advertising and marketing.
Hey, that's not a bad position to be in, honestly.
I just don't have the paperwork to prove it. But I've taken, I think, every class at that time that you could possibly take for art and design and graphics and advertising and marketing. And it's because the curriculum kept changing and I was just stuck in this, man, I've got to take this now and this now. But I did it and I graduated in 2000.
Okay.
So I got that degree. But anyways, back to, I don't know.
Well, okay, so you
exactly you were.
So I mean, look, you've overcome obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. Like, I thought I had it hard. Like, I was working full time, 40 hours a week, and then a job on Saturdays that was just an 8 hours a day. So I was doing 48 hours a week, and I had to go to school 20 and do my homework. And like, I thought I had it rough for 3 years straight. And apparently that's not true. Like, I didn't have it hard because I didn't have to go to school for 7 years and raise kids and work a night job. And so hats off to you. Seriously, Angie, that's impressive. Yeah. And to have, like, to stay committed, and I don't know you super well, but I see you interact. I've seen you around the trade shows. Like, you have a smile on your face. You're always very positive. Like, to stay in a positive mindset throughout all of that and to keep pushing forward and not let it get to you and just say, you know what, I want to quit. I want to throw in the towel. Mm-hmm. What was it that kept you doing that?
I don't know. See, I think all of the things that I went through, and we're not going to talk about that, but there's a lot of things that I went through in life. And I think all of those crappy things that happen and situations you get into that are negative, I think what it ended up doing was making me stronger, as a person, so I could handle more. And now it works well with the tile industry, because now dealing with contractors and clients, a lot of my clients are contractors, but dealing with my clients and the heartbreak that comes along with big jobs that you think you're going to get and that don't happen, or you knew this job was going to happen, but it just fell through at the last minute.
Yeah.
There's all types of times where I could sit around and complain about all the crappy things that happen. But I feel like when you've been dragged through the mud already, everything else just doesn't really seem that huge. Like, it just made me stronger. I just pick up and move on. I'm more of a survivor type than a victim of anything, So I look at myself and I know I'm strong. I know I'm mentally strong, but I don't always have good days. There were times, I didn't always wake up like, yeah, I can do anything. There were days that I realized I had way too much on my shoulders and I couldn't handle it. And I would just break down and cry and, I don't know how to do this, and it seemed to always be better the next day. Like, I would just go to sleep, and the next day I had like new breath breathed into me, and like, I can do this. It's just tiny little baby steps. Well, so if you have 10 problems, just figure one out. and celebrate the small victories.
Yes.
And that gives you enough, that little small victory gives you enough confidence in yourself to kind of, it's like gas, like fuel, it just kind of pushes you to achieve more and more.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to ask you if you had ever yes, you kept pushing forward. Yes, you're strong. But it wears you down. I was going to ask if you had any cry
Mm-hmm.
sessions, and you said you did. And I think we
Oh,
both
yeah.
know that this is a male dominated industry, and we're supposed to be tough guys, and we can't do it. You know what, folks? Man, if you want to curl up in the corner and you want to cry, go right ahead. Okay. I give you permission. Okay. And that sounds ridiculous, but I don't think men
Mm-hmm.
express emotions enough, and it gets tough. It's okay to let it out in a way that would most people would consider it as weak, but I don't like it's natural. You're frustrated. It's a release. It lets it go. And I'm not a crier. I have that problem. I don't want to do it. And there's I got my own baggage, and mental issues about it, but I've done it and it feels
Yeah.
great. It does. It really helps. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it does something to you emotionally to actually get it out of your system. Because, I mean, sometimes it's helpful to cry it out. I don't cry very often. It takes a whole lot, but whenever I do, I try to go to the shower. It's the best place. But anyways, yeah, it things got really overwhelmed, but I'm determined person. I'm more of a fighter, and whenever something got in my way, like a challenge, our water got turned off or something like that, I was like, no, this is not going to be the end of this. We're going to figure this out. Challenge accepted. Let's figure out the water situation, So it was hard. And especially when you're going through divorces and things like that, and there's court involved and kids involved, and there's people watching, making sure that things like that aren't happening. And
yeah.
I'm like, I can do this, but sometimes things just start snowballing, and that's when I stepped it up. I'm like, okay, well, I need to balance. I did always try to balance. I didn't work all the time where my kids never saw me, but it did take some of that time where I could have been spending time with my kids. I had older children, and whenever I went to, when the younger ones would go to sleep, I would go drive for Uber, right when that first came out.
Okay.
And the money was good in it back then. And so I felt justified, well, my little kids are going to be asleep. My older kids are just sitting up watching a movie. I'm going to go do this for 3 or 4 hours, make, a couple $100 and come home. So it just helped fill the gaps. And I was like, okay, so that takes care of that problem. I need to do this to be able to pay for this. And oh yeah, I want to start a business because I feel like I can. And so I wanted to do that because I wanted to succeed. I didn't want to tread water constantly. I wanted to move past out of that, having multiple jobs. I wanted to move past that. So always that was my goal, was to start a business. And because I had experience in flooring, I thought I'm going to start a flooring installation business. And the perfect opportunity came to me whenever I was working on base. I worked on base full time, bartended part time. But when I was working on base, it was getting to the point where it's really difficult for a single parent to have that job because it was a union job, and they started implementing mandatory overtime. I was already working to the point where you can only keep your child in daycare for a certain amount of hours.
Yeah.
And I was maxing out that time. So the other people I worked with, I was the only female for quite a while, like 45 men. I was a maintenance technician too, I guess is my official title, but anything flooring basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so nobody seemed to be in that same situation where I was, I'm like, do none of you guys have to pick your kids up from daycare? Like I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, okay, it's not because I'm a woman, that I have to pick my kid up from daycare. It's because I'm a parenting by myself with a lot of children. And it's, when they initiate all these mandatory, you have to work, overtime. I'm like, well, I have to also go pick up my child from daycare because they close. And so they were like, my bosses were like, well, can you get somebody else to pick them up for you? I'm like, no.
No, I have kids.
Just me. That's the thing. There's nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to ask a stranger, my family was not available to do that. So I'm like, no, it's up to me. And it came down to me being either a good employee or a good parent. And, at first I was being the good employee, and I was getting all the accolades of, being a good employee. But I felt really bad that I didn't get to take care of my kids the way I wanted to. I wanted to be a great mom over being a good employee. So I was headed to the direction of starting my own business so that I could be my own boss and do things how I wanted, work the hours I wanted, because it was better for my family that way.
Yeah.
And I was also playing roller derby. I needed things for me.
Yes,
so it's like very much a balance. And too much of anything is bad. I think you need time for yourself, time with your family, time to work. And it's not good to just do one thing, because then it's not balanced. It just doesn't seem to work well for me.
No, I don't think it works for anybody. And
you get burnout on anything, really.
Yes. And you bring up something that I've seen come up, like since I started facilitating a couple of mastermind groups, and I have people going through and setting goals, and I have everyone do an exercise, and they all think I'm crazy until they do it. I have them write their obituary. And everyone starts off and they're like, talking about like they talk about how they go through the mental process of it, right? And it starts with like writing your business goals, and you're doing this, and then everyone's like, but this isn't, who cares about this stuff? Like, I don't want people talking about this stuff. They're never going to talk about it. And finally it clicks, right? And they start talking about their family or their community or these other ways of involving yourself in life. And what you said was, I needed, like, essentially you were talking about, you needed a vehicle that fit you being able to facilitate a relationship with your children, because the vehicle you had didn't work. And I think a lot of us get into being business owners because we're like, this is going to be so great. And then we get caught up in, oh, I got to actually like do all these other things. It's not just building the widget or installing the floor or whatever it's going to be, right? You got to do 5,000 other things to do it, and those start consuming all your time, and then you get Well, I got to
Mhm.
grow it. I got to get it bigger. I got to, and you lose focus. Folks, your
Yeah.
business is the vehicle for you to do the things you wanted to do. If you want to spend time with your family, you can drop the business. Like, you have to use it as the vehicle to produce the end result you want. You want to travel the world, go work a bunch. The Oliver and Brianna Ledbetter are great examples, right? They bust their butts and then they go on a mission for like 3 or 4 months, and then they, and they're not making any income during that time, and then they come back, they bust their butts doing a bunch of installs, they save up some money, they go do another mission, and there's, you can do these things, and
Hmm.
but too many of us get caught up and we're just stuck. Like, I gotta grind, I gotta grind, I gotta grow it, and I'm like, please, I know it's horrible, but do as I say, not as I do, because like, we can bring my wife back in here and she will gladly tell you that I work and I work and I work, and here we are. I'm in Wisconsin and I'm recording a podcast, and my family's watching in Canto. Like, not exactly the greatest example right now. We were out at my sister-in-law's. We swam, we hung out with grandpa, and the kids saw great grandpa, and it was great, right? We did some family stuff. So I'm doing both, but like, we can come on this vacation because I busted my butt, and finally I realized like I needed a break too. And usually my family will come up in the summer and I stay home and I'll do a project or something, and finally it happened, like I had the weeks free. So I asked my wife to change the dates she was going to come, and we drove up and we're here and we're hanging out, and it's been great. But don't get caught up all the time in how it's supposed to make you some money, or the client it's just a floor, it's just a mosaic. If they get it a day late, their house and their life can still function, right? We're not doing heart surgery. So
Hmm.
relax. Like, we can do this. And I think that's important to
Hmm.
notice. Like, we have to make this be, we have to be aware of where we're going with it and what we want out of it. Don't get caught up in then the business, right? And I think your kids have always been important to you. And so, and we'll get into that in a little bit, because your daughter
Hmm.
made like a huge decision. And I like, man, I don't know any teenage girl that wants to hang out with their parents. So it could, like, accolades right there for you. I'm gonna interrupt us, and then I want to get into kind of how Unique Mosaics was formed, and how you've been doing that and growing that along with balancing the kids and things. But let me interrupt us for just 1 minute. I gotta get the right one here. Hey, listeners, whether you're an installer, retailer, distributor, or serve in another capacity within our industry, attending trade shows is a solid resource to expand your knowledge and networking base. You can also learn about the newest and industry-leading products coming to market. The International Surfaces event is returning to Las Vegas January 31st through February 2nd, 2023. So mark your calendars now. Floor Academy podcast listeners will have exclusive registration offers coming soon. Stay up to date with the International Surfaces event page on Facebook. Johns Manville manufactures a range of innovative building materials, including products for the flooring industry. From GoBoard to Evolith, Johns Manville products are not often visible, but they provide technical, environmental, and economic advantages to the essential items you are installing every day. GoBoard is an ultra lightweight and waterproof tile backer board, while Evolith products are fiberglass or polyester non-woven components used in the making of carpet tiles, LVT, and resilient flooring. Okay, so Angie, you have this vision, right? You now know you want to be a business owner. And obviously this like union gig is not working out. So what
Right.
what what was that like, right? We have to, that's a huge jump to say, well, going into business for myself, I'm going to provide everything to make sure my family can survive.
Yes, it was scary and it was thrilling at the same time. And I remember that very first day after I had put in my notice And it was the day after my last day of work. And I was just like so excited. I was so excited and filled with like hope and dreams and like I'm going to do this. I had jobs lined up. I had estimates lined up. Luckily, a friend of mine worked for a realtor,
Mm-hmm.
and she basically told me, "We're going to give you all our punch list for houses we're selling. You go, but you need to be legit. You need to be a legit business."
Mm-hmm.
So I had all that lined up. Like I had a business name, which wasn't Unique Mosaics at that time. It
Okay.
was Beach Life Flooring, because I wasn't strictly mosaics at that time.
Yeah.
Um, but I had quite a bit of work lined up, and it was, the money was better. Everything seemed better, except I didn't have the benefits anymore that I was spoiled to with the union.
Mm-hmm.
There were some
Mm-hmm.
great benefits that I was letting go. And but it was exhilarating, and then it got really hard. And you know then I started feeling like, oh, my pricing is not right. I didn't quite have all the tools that I needed to be able to travel to different job sites. Like I said, I kind of borrowed tools from my dad, he was a finish carpenter. So he only had a limited amount of tools for his trade.
Okay.
Anything to build a house, he pretty much had, but he didn't do any tile work and he didn't do flooring. So I did buy a flooring nailer. I was installing hardwood. I was doing punch lists. I was doing all kinds of stuff. And, but it waned off after a while. And so I continued working at night. It wasn't every night, it was most nights as a waitress, bartender, a server bartender job at a fine dining restaurant. So even with that, I tried to work in the best financial situation I could work in.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
more expensive the food is, the bigger the wine list is, the more tips you make, because it's all based on a percentage.
Yes.
Most people tip a percentage. So I was like, why not go to the most expensive restaurant that I can go to and apply? And that's where my head was at with that. And so I felt like I was kind of falling away from the whole flooring thing. And then I remember I had this art teacher in high school, and Miss Williams, and I remember her saying that that art is one of those industries. It's easy to be a starving artist. She said to be able to make it, you need to enter contests and win contests, because that will put you out there. Enter contests and winning contests. That's a really good way to getting into it. So
Okay.
to win a contest, you need to gain a skill to be able to win it.
Yes.
But so I was thinking, okay, I've already practiced mosaics long enough that I feel like I can enter a contest. And so I was looking around, and also at that time, like GTP was putting on a contest for Ardex.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if I
You're
can
good.
say
You're
that.
good. That's fine.
But they put on a contest for, it had to be, a grinder had to be involved. And I didn't have a grinder. So I did a mosaic of me holding a grinder because they weren't specific on the instructions. And at that time, I decided to. I was dating my now husband.
Okay.
And I remember, but he was living in Alaska. I was living in North Carolina. We were way far apart from each other, and long distance relationship. And I remember sending him pictures of my kitchen table, and it was just like covered up with this idea. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna win. And so I just put all my heart and soul into this project, and I was like, I felt in my heart that it was really important that I do this. And, it's just an online competition, but I just really poured my heart and soul into it. And I won. And it's not like I won $1 million or anything, but the recognition and the attention that the good attention that it brought to me with other contractors and friends that I have met over the years, and people who knew I was struggling and knew, my situation. And when I won, it did really open a door. And and then people started talking about me, recommending me to do things for them. Oh, I know somebody who could make this. And then one project turned into 2, which turned into 5, which turned into 10, and it just snowballed into, because I kept giving it my all. Like every time I'm like, I've got to do my best. I've got to, wow, that was good. I've got to figure out how to do it this way. I've got to figure out how to work with this material. I need more tools. I need this, so my lease was up where I was living, and I was living in North Carolina in this trailer at the time with my kids, and my lease was up, but I also had a well water problem, and my landlady, I had a legit slumlord. But my landlady lived 3 hours away. I'd never met her in person. And she told me I was not having a well problem. And I'm like, the water will not turn on. And I would send her videos of like the faucet. I'm like, the water won't come on. I had no water for the last 30 days of living there and having kids in zero water. Well, I was like, I'm going to go next door and ask the neighbor if he wouldn't mind let me borrow his water. Anyway, so I went and got 2 5-gallon buckets filled up with water. I'm like, we have to live here the next 30 days because I put money down on a house in Utah, a townhouse that I applied for because I was going to start working with Rod Catwick.
Okay.
Like whenever I moved up here. Because of that contest, put me in touch with Rod, right? So Rod was like, I've got some work I can keep you busy with until your mosaics, take off, or if you just want to fill in whatever, you won't be working for me, you'll be working with me. We're going to be, we'll work together as it works out. So I was like, I've never been to Utah, and it was tough because at that same time we had no water. My ex-husband found out I was going to move to Utah and took me to court again to try to keep me from moving. So I had to leave with just one child.
Oh my gosh.
and fight for the others. I had custody of my children, but one of my children got married. So my kids are getting older,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So I've had one that's out of the house and married now. And then a young 20s child and two, well, preteen, teen, elementary school. So long story short, I ended up just taking my very youngest child with me to Utah because I was wrapped up in another court issue. And that was tough. But things weren't happening where I was at. So, and that's how I promise, I'm like, I'm going to get myself together and then do the best thing for the children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But first I need to take care of me and do the best thing. And so it happened slowly. My my oldest child, he's still here. He's not in this house, but he lives on his own in his apartment.
Okay.
So his name's Corey. He came. My daughter Kylie. Eventually, that took a year or two, and then my daughter Shelby. She's graduated, so I've got now I only have two children at home because everybody's grown up and on their own now. And Unique Mosaics just started blowing up. And there were definitely some really slow months where I was like, it was feast or famine,
Yeah.
tons of work. You feel like it's never going to end. And then all of a sudden, where'd all the work go?
Mm-hmm.
What if nobody ever calls and never wants another custom piece? What if my phone never rings? What if it So I'm like, I can't put all my eggs in one basket. And then I start thinking about taking on some other kind of random job while I'm doing this. And just about when I start thinking that way, I get more work.
Yep.
And I'm just so thankful. I'm just very thankful. I feel like God provides for me and our family, and I'm just really blessed to have the ability to create these unique things for people. And it's because of all the experience that I've had in creating something different. So when you have to think out of the box constantly, it's not hard. It's like inviting challenges, So I think when you get stuck in doing the same thing every day, and then something new comes along that you think is over your head, it's really not. You just haven't pushed yourself out there on the ledge to try it, And I feel like I was kind of in these situations where, I've got these jobs and they're like, wow, okay, so you want me to build a tree stump that's also a shower seat out of mosaics. Tile doesn't bend, and I'm like, but there's a way I can do this. There's sculptures, there's people out there doing things like that, and I just have to figure out how to do it. So every single job that I get, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. I've got to brainstorm. So it takes me back to college and where they have brainstorming projects. They're like, okay, you have to create this thing, but you only have 3 materials, or you have to create a circle, but you only have triangles to work with. So
okay,
everything feels like a giant challenge, and I feel like that because I'm not afraid of it. um, is what brought work to me. People would have some wild project and my name would come up and people would say, go, why don't you give it to Angie? Because she'll do it. She'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I'm like, yeah, okay, I will. Let me figure it out. So it, you know, I love the art aspect of what I do. I love the challenges that I face all the time. And I just absolutely love my job. It's overwhelming at times, but the work keeps coming in, and I'm just really thankful for it. And I feel like it'll evolve to whatever it's going to be over time. But right now, I'm in a pretty good place. I'm getting big commercial projects like what I dreamed about. And when I was deep in the mud, and I had these crazy pipe dreams, and I just, I'm getting the biggest job I've ever had in my life is coming up, and it's going to be really impressive, and it's going to be a great challenge to figure it out. So.
Well, I mean, I want to say, like, I don't think you had crazy pipe dreams. I think the people that may have been around you, right? Like there's a saying that you are the sum of the 5 people, you surround yourself with. And it may not be exactly true. I like that saying, because if you surround yourself with negative people, you pick up that negative attitude. If you surround yourself with positive people, you pick up that positive vibe, and you want to grow and excel and get to where they're at, right? If I surround myself with people that are millionaires, like, it's hard not to become a millionaire, because that's who you're around. Those are people that are operating at a high level. You're going to start operating at that level with them because you need to keep up. And so everyone else may have been looking at it as a pipe dream, but there's probably people around you as well that were like, yeah, okay, like you can do that. It may have not been as many, but you truly believed in it, and you didn't let the naysayers get to you. And then it sounds like when you won that GTP competition, that really was like that first big push of like, oh wow, hey, this is really something. And then you got those people to come in and surround you and lift you up and build you up and really start pushing this dream forward, and it's continued from there. I know you put your heart and soul into each piece, and that's going to go a long way. There's a lot of times where I think business owners, we get in a groove, and you're like, oh, it's just another shower. It's and you're not giving it your all, and your clients can tell. Like, they know that when you walk in with a smile and you're like giddy about it and you're passionate, like, man, they know those things, and they can get behind it. They sense that energy. And so if you're kind of like phoning it in, they know that they may not know that you're phoning it in, but they can tell, like, there's not that excitement from that somebody else may have. And so I think people working with you, like, that's something that it spreads like wildfire. And then you're like, I got to be around this person more. Like, I need to interact with them. I need to be able to help somebody else find out what they're doing. And that's why you want to refer it, give a referral. And so I think that's all been playing into your business, and why it's grown and become what it's become is because this isn't a sob story. Like, that's not at all what I was going after. Like, this is a build me up, like, look at what's been accomplished and how this positivity can go so far. And then you meet the right people, and it just, like, it catches on. I think a lot of times people think that you start a business and it's going to blow up overnight. And when I started my flooring company, I always kind of figured it would be 3 to 5 years before I would really have good word of mouth referrals. And that was just based on, okay, if I can do a job a week, I've only interacted with 50 people for the year and delivered a product to them. So after 3 years, there's only 150 people in a city of 4.5 million telling people about me. Like, how far does that reach really go? But at about the 3.5 year mark, a lot more referral calls started coming in. And so it was just this, it takes time. And I think people like sometimes expect it to like blow up overnight. And even you were like, I'm just going to keep going. Like the phone's not ringing, but I'm going to find a way to keep doing it. And it seems to be like when you're really passionate about it and people believe in what you're doing, like that phone rings at just the right time. And it gives you just enough to like, to get to the next, like it's just enough, right? It's like dangled in front of you. Like you can keep your dream. Here you go. But then you do that long enough. And finally, like now you're in a position where like, I don't even know how I'm going to get it all done. I have too much work on my plate and I'm you know, now you're drowning and it's the opposite problem. Like, how do it's not enough to bring somebody on full time. And then, but it's enough to like drive you insane.
Yeah. And it's kind of the same. I think I handle things in the same way as I was growing up and going through all these things. You know, I did learn that to take big problems and break them down into smaller and then maybe bites.
Yes.
You know, so you can accomplish. It's just like when I have a giant mosaic that looks like, when am I ever going to finish this thing? You know, it's huge. How am I going to ever, where do I start? Where am I going to be next week with it? You know?
Yes. Yeah.
So what I do is I end up setting goals for myself, setting my own schedule, making my own timeline. If I have like a very strict deadline to meet, I will make certain daily goals. Like I want to be finished with this part of it by this, you know, time today. I've even broken it down into hours. You know, from this hour to this hour, I'm going to work on this. And then it pushes me to get to that point and to not, you know, get distracted with other things. But I just set myself a daily goal. And then over time, I see the progress that I need to make. And I'm like, well, I'm getting it. You know, it seems like forever for me because I've been standing in front of it this whole time.
Yeah.
But really, I got this much done and it's only been 2 weeks. And it's almost finished now, you know?
Yeah. There's, I'm huge on time studies. And I think more contractors need to look at how long tasks actually take them. Like, you go and you look at a job and you're like, it'll take me 3 days. And then you get in there and how many times do we hear the story from clients that, the contractor told me 3 days, it's been 2 weeks. They told me 3 months, it's been 9. What? Come on. Like, you got to know better than that, you know? And so I think we really have to break down and look at how long do our average tasks take us. And then that's how you can start building out a project. I mean, my question for you would be like, okay, so the American flag that was at coverings, obviously there was 50 stars in it, but do you have any idea how many individual pieces made it up by chance?
Nope, because that would take too much time to count.
Okay, so how big was the entire thing?
Oh, that one was somewhere around
like 2x4 maybe.
What, the American flag?
Coverings? Yeah, 2.5 by 5 or so, something like that. I mean, it was big.
Are you talking about just the blue section?
No, like the whole thing. Like, how big was the whole thing?
Oh, yeah, it was close to 6 feet tall by 4.5 feet.
Okay,
somewhere like that.
So you got like
I can't remember
you got
exactly.
like 24 square feet. So whatever 24 times 144 is, and then what you can fit. I don't know. Your pieces are pretty small, right? There's probably like 4 pieces, 5 pieces per square inch.
Well, in the blue
Give or take.
section, the blue section was different than the stripes.
Mm-hmm.
So, The blue took the longest, obviously, because it was a lot smaller pieces, hand cut pieces. Every single piece was cut to fit to beside the piece that was beside it. So
Hmm.
it was all cut to fit. Um,
But I mean, essentially,
that,
what I'm getting is like there's thousands of pieces in that,
yes, thousands.
and
Yes.
like it's tedious and slow, and like,
Mm-hmm.
having to like handcraft everything. Like you have to know how long things are taking you, and
Yeah.
really start digging into it. And I think that's
Yeah.
huge. Like knowing, giving yourself that goal. I don't think enough people necessarily walk into a project in the morning and they say, by noon I need to be at this step, or
Mm-hmm.
by 2 I need to have this entire line done, or this 6-inch
Right.
section, like in your case, like this 6-inch section and these 100 pieces cut and
Mm-hmm.
mapped out. Like it's one, I think it helps keep
Yeah.
you motivated, but two, it lets you know, like, oh, I'm
If
maybe
you,
I underbid this or
yes.
overbid it. Like it starts letting you dial in the processes.
Yeah, it tells you if you're behind or not.
Hmm.
Because if you break down every part of your process into a timeline and you're like, this, all the way up until your deadline, where you're trying to reach that goal. If you keep missing your mark, then you're actually realizing that you're behind, because then there's no way that you can get everything done by the deadline, unless maybe you bring in somebody else
Hmm.
to help.
Hmm.
So it does keep me on track when I have strict deadlines. I don't like to have strict deadlines, but I do at times, um, especially if I'm working with commercial, or a project where I'm working, the tile contractor's already scheduled to come in to install what I'm
Yes. Yeah.
making at a certain time. So I'm trying to meet that deadline. I
Hmm.
want people to be happy and get, but at the same time, we need to be realistic, because I think a lot of people don't realize, when you just look at a few inches of work, of high detail work, I'm like, wow, that took me all day to do that much,
Hmm.
and it just depends on the level of detail I'm working with. Sometimes I'm working with larger pieces and I get more done, in a day, like square footage wise.
Yeah.
Um, so when I'm doing high detail projects with a large square footage, that's when it gets really challenging for me to predict time, because some people want to know, how long is this going to take you? I don't know. Sometimes I'm thinking, mm, and sometimes I'm like, well, according to my data, it would probably take me about 4 or 5 months to get that done, if
Yeah.
this is the only project I'm working on.
Hmm.
So that's when other things factor in. So I tell this person that it will only take 4 or 5 months. Well, my phone starts ringing, and then I have suddenly 4 more projects. And I'm also working on that one. So now it's time to invent a new system to be able to make progress on everything.
Hmm.
And that's when it comes down to me scheduling my hours. From 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I'm going to work on this project, from 8 a.m. in the morning till 1:30 or whatever. I'm going to work on this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you got to schedule in lunches and stuff like that, meetings. So even though I don't have a boss, I do have a boss, and she's pretty tough. So I
Well,
definitely stay
yeah,
busy.
I think a lot of people. This is another thing that I think is overlooked. Is they say I'm the boss, right? I own the company. No, no, no.
Mm-hmm.
You may own the company. You work for the company, and the company is the higher power. And so I think you have it right. Like the company sets the details and hold you accountable that you have to get this done. Otherwise the company can't succeed, which means then you no longer get to own a company because you screwed it up. But like the company is the higher power, and like you get to be way down here as an employee. The other thing is like you're talking about breaking down your tasks, and I think that's huge. So do you have goals for the company of like how you want to grow it and where they want to go, and do you have that broken down into like little steps as well? Is that something you're doing?
I see myself growing out of the building that I'm in. But as far as like growth in my company, I don't have goals necessarily to become a big manufacturer. I like keeping it small. So growing in a financial sense, yes, I would like to see that become a better system than what I have now. But I'm not sure that I can think as far as like growing in any other way other than bigger jobs, in a bigger building and one or two people helping, but not like in a sense that I'm trying to take over the world in tile and mosaics. You know, like keeping it specialized. I feel like I'm in a really specialized field, and the jobs that I get come from all over the country. So it's not like locally I'm being bombarded with a bunch of jobs. I'm getting jobs from all over the country, but I would like to grow to the point where I'm getting bigger jobs and I can handle bigger jobs, and then I can also handle more jobs. So maybe I do need to hire.
You see, you got to start writing these things down and breaking them down into little itty bitty pieces. Yeah. There you go.
It's hard to think about growth when you're busy working.
Well, we get stuck working in it instead of on it, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So now you've got extra homework. This is the problem. You come on the podcast and I end up giving people homework. Right. we're starting to run a little long, so I got a couple questions. So throughout this, right, you were doing the long distance dating thing. You had a boyfriend. You now I'm assuming are both in Utah. You just took a wonderful vacation, so you have someone there supporting you. How has that impacted what you've been able to do? Because there's someone else there supporting you. There's someone to help with the kids. There's someone else providing an income. How has that impacted what you're able to do?
Well, it's been a challenge because it is hard going from, being on your own, doing things your own way and having 5 children, and then the marriage of a person who doesn't have any children. But we have a history. We dated in high school, so like we know each other pretty well, and it's definitely a relief in a lot of ways. I have somebody to talk to, and he has me to talk to. We go places and do fun things, and share life together. So, I mean, it's hasn't been all like roses and rainbows, because there was a clash with me having the kids and him not having the kids, and then trying to co-parent and things like that when he's never done it before. And, that's always kind of tough, but, we're making it work, and it is working, and we just kind of work as a team.
Did that free up time
still hard.
Do the business end of things more though? Did that help alleviate some of the stress and cut out the extra hours you were having to do, right? And working night jobs and running kids around. So having that, has that, alleviated more, or do you still like?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, we still split everything pretty much 50-50
Hmm.
in the household, and everything that has to do with the business, I take care of.
Hmm.
But we, share responsibilities at home, and he goes and picks kids up and stuff like that, where I would normally have to do that. Um, so, I mean, it's definitely weight off of my shoulders,
Hmm. Hmm.
in certain aspects, but it's still a challenge too. I don't think
Relation.
everything, I don't think anything or any relationships ever like completely easy.
No,
At least I've
relationships are
never.
hard. They're so hard.
Yeah,
They're so hard. So no,
yeah.
I'm with you, but I think that you put in, you know, you put in so much for so long doing it on your own that I think it's gotta look. If anybody's out there and like you have the backing this entire time and you're worried about your struggle,
Yeah.
come on, you
But you know
can
what?
you
I
got
don't
this.
want
Like you
people
can
to
do it.
think, yeah, I don't want people to think either that you have to have somebody
Hmm.
to be able to do it.
No, you were
You
doing it.
know, I'm, yeah, I never really liked the term single mom
Okay.
because I didn't want to put a label on myself. I just wanted to be a good mom or, you know, to have my kids respect me and to teach them
Hmm.
to work hard and that life is hard, but you can do it. Um, and they've seen me go through situations where they were very hard and to work my way out of it. But I would be doing this um, in my business, I think, no matter what,
Hmm.
whether I was married or not.
I
So it's
totally
like
believe
I
that.
was determined to do it.
Totally believe
Yeah.
that. And I that's not what I'm trying to, once again, like this isn't a pity thing, right? I want people to know, like,
Mhm.
relationships are hard, business is hard. If you have a relationship and you have a business partnership, you got to
Mhm.
like three times as hard because you have two marriages essentially at that point. And so look, it's possible. Like I want everyone to know, like this journey to own a business is not easy, but it can be successful when you give it your
Mhm.
all and you set steps and you work towards your goals and you're passionate about it and you make sure people come first and you give them what you promised you would give them, and maybe you go above and beyond, and so you can do it, and you can come from essentially nothing and have, you can build what you want to build. Angie was living in a trailer with no water. She's got a house now. So come on now, like you can do it. Like you can move up in life, right? It's possible to get ahead. I think people say like the American dream is dead and like you can't do it and you can't get ahead in life. And this industry, I think, is a great way to move yourself forward as long as you work hard and you put in the effort to do so. And that's why I wanted to hear your story. Is people are going to get down on themselves, and this is, it's a great story of overcoming obstacles and being able to move forward. So the last thing I have is you made a post that your daughter had some issues with her prom date, like canceling or falling apart at the last minute. And you've obviously always been very busy, but you did say like I made time for my kids throughout it. So she asked you, like, first and foremost, like, hey, like things got messed up, and she came to you and she was like, will you be my date to prom? What did that mean to you? Like how did that make you feel as a mom for her to come to
I was
you?
I was so honored. And I was like, yes, I'm going to go to the prom. And so I was like, I don't have anything to wear. And, but her, she had her first breakup, and it literally happened the day before prom. She had gone and bought, she has a job. She bought her own dress, bought her own shoes, bought her own necklace, jewelry, all of the things. And she was dating this boy for several months. Pretty long relationship for, I guess, a senior in high school. And they broke up a day before prom. And she was heartbroken. And she said, you know what? I still want to go to the prom. I have all the stuff I bought. I'm still going. I'm not going to let this stop me from going to the prom. And she said, will you be my date? And I was like, yes, let's go to the prom. And then I started thinking, is your school going to allow that? Like, is this allowed? So I called the school to get permission, or she got permission from the school, and they were like, oh yeah, that's totally cool. And so I was like, okay, well, let's do it. And I was super honored, and her friends like accepted me, and we went to the prom together, and we sat at the table with her big, group of friends, and I took pictures, and it was a lot of fun. I was kind of nervous because I'm like, is this even allowed? I'm not going to be a chaperone. I'm actually going to be participating, so, but the school was really cool about it, and they thought it was great. And she, I didn't want to say no. How could you totally say no to that?
Yeah.
And
well, I think it just speaks volumes.
We are going to go.
I mean, but I think it just speaks volumes about who you are as a mom. And like, yeah, you were busy, and there was bad years involved, but at the end of the day, you were able to always kind of put your kids first, obviously, and let them know how important they were to you, and that this, we're going to be together no matter what. And, I care about you. And so I think it's absolutely amazing that, that first and foremost, she comes to you and she's like, will you go with me? Like, my life sucks right now, but you're like, you're super important to her, obviously. And that's not gonna, that doesn't happen in a lot of families these days. I feel like kids like their parents, but I don't know that they like them enough to say, like, you can come hang out with me and all my friends, especially as teenagers, where like I was miserable as a teenager. I don't even want to talk about it. I was probably really mean to my mom. So, I hit like 12 and I didn't even want to be seen with her anymore. So no, that's super awesome. And so folks, don't, like, once again, your business doesn't have to control your life. And Angie's shown, like, not only can you put a dream in place, but your family can still be important, and you can participate with them. And that's why I wanted to tell this story. Like, don't get so caught up in providing, because I think we then get caught up in it. There's always what's next, right? We hit 1 million, and then we can hit 1.5, we hit 2, we hit 5, we hit 10. Like, you always set another goal, but what all you really needed was to hit, maybe initially you only needed $75,000 a year to really feel you were providing a good life for your family. And now you're doing how much extra so that you can make $250,000, $300,000 a year. But all you needed was the 75. You don't have to do it, but we keep doing it. That's like, look at what you're doing and why you did it. And what do you need to actually do the things that you want? Because you can probably scale some of it back and start enjoying life a little bit more. So take a look at what you have going on and find out what you really need. I think that's a message I want taken away from this. Angie, do you have anything to add, something we missed along the way that you want to make sure gets in there?
No, I'm just really thankful that you brought me in today to talk about my life a little bit and some of the challenges I went through. I do want to say that, if you are in a situation where you feel like you can't do it, just know that you can, and take a small little step, because it's the tiny little victories that that give you the fuel to take it farther. Don't give up.
100%. Reach out to somebody. Like, call me, email me. I'd be happy to talk with you. I'm sure Angie would be happy to talk with you. I know you've got to know someone local or in your area or an old friend. Call somebody. Like, if you are struggling, just call somebody that you know believes in you, and have that quick conversation. Like, get it out, get it off your chest, talk through it, and that next little step is going to be easier. And you know what? We'll go back a little bit. If you got to cry it out, go cry it out. I don't care if you're a big dude. Like, go cry it out.
It's healthy.
It's good for you. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Angie, for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. I know I threw you for a loop and asked you kind of last minute, and I appreciate you doing me the favor and making this all happen and coming together with it. So that's all we have for this week. Check out flooracademypod.com. Go to the files section. I've got some cool stuff in there to help you run your business a little better. You can find us on YouTube. Tell a friend for me, please. Go out there. If you're at a supply shop, tell the guy in line behind you how much you enjoy listening to this show, and help grow the audience for me. And if you want to help support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/flooracademy. Thanks to our sponsors, the International Surface Event, Johns Manville and Ladacrete. And Angie, thank you again for your time. We will catch you all
Thank you, Kyle.
next week. You're welcome. It's 100% my pleasure.